today by taking a moment to address our budget. We pledged to bring fiscal restraint to Annapolis, and we have. The very first budget that we submitted eliminated nearly all of the $5.1 billion deficit that we inherited. We've invested record amounts in education, transportation, and the environment, while easing the tax burden on hardworking Maryland families. We have fully funded all of our priorities while passing balanced budgets every year. We've been able to accomplish all of this without the budgetary shell games and gimmicks that Maryland has seen in the past, such as draining billions from environmental and transportation trust funds and racking up billions in debt. However, we must remain vigilant and fiscally prudent and be prepared for volatility in the national economy. Budget Secretary advises that our revenue numbers, while still generally positive, are not growing as fast as mandated spending. As we have for 5 straight budgets, again this year, we warned the legislature against unsustainable spending beyond our means. Unfortunately, the legislature again ignored those warnings and pushed for a staggering $7 billion in new, unaffordable, mandated spending increases with no plan whatsoever for how to pay for any of it. We also have repeatedly warned the legislature against attempting to spend money outside of the normal budget process by using a shell game gimmick known as fencing off. The legislature ignored those warnings and took money from important priorities and then respent that money on other things and made false promises to special interest groups, which they knew could not and would not be fulfilled. The balanced budget which we submitted made the largest proposed investment in school construction ever in state history. Our legislation would clear nearly all of the school construction backlog in every single jurisdiction in the state. But the legislature, unfortunately, chose to indiscriminately cut this aggressive school construction from the budget. They took the same reckless approach for important funding to fight crime and for issues like housing and environmental protection programs. Most of the money for these programs was funded in our budget, but then was cut by the legislature to spend on other things. And their actions jeopardized the funding for many important and worthwhile programs. Unfortunately, they continued to ignore the serious fiscal warnings, and as a result, we are now facing a potential $961 million budget shortfall. They have put us on a glide path to an $18.7 billion deficit, $18.7 billion deficit over the next 5 years. To make some of these false promises, the legislature cut $90 million from the Rainy Day Fund and cut $50 million from the pension fund. Contrary to rhetoric that we hear, there is not really excess money available piled up behind a so-called magical fenced-off area to cover this additional $245 million in extra spending. So today, I am announcing that no additional fenced-off money will be added to or spent by the administration. However, we will not allow critical public safety and health needs to go unmet. So the Department of Budget and Management will be working with our executive branch agencies in order to find ways to correct these mistakes within the existing budget and to make sure that we can fund critical public safety and health programs. School construction remains a top priority for us, and so we will resubmit our record school construction funding proposal again in January. We will also be working to address many of the other important and worthwhile funding requests over the next few months as we finalize the budget, which we will submit to the legislature when they return in January.